What happened to you, Doctor?
Oh, I'm not sure, my dear. Comes from an outside influence. This whole body of mine is wearing a bit thin.
What do you mean wearing a bit thin?
Oh, don't worry, child, don't worry. It's far from being all over.
No, leave it.
We are now traversing orbital path of planet Vulcan. Increase speed to maximum. We must... Alert! Engines hit by meteor strike. Maneuvering controls not responding. Shut down engines immediately. Controls not responding. Course now changing. We are caught in the gravitational pull of the planet Vulcan. Emergency procedures. Transmit distress signal to Scarlo. Transmitter non-functional. Main power shut down. This capsule is out of control. Crash landing imminent.
He's breathing. The TARDIS seems to be normal.
Then what are we going to do? We can't just leave the doctor there.
But him? The doctor?
Well, that's who came through the doors. There was no one else outside. Ben, do you remember what he said in the tracking room? Something about this old body of mine is wearing a bit thin.
So he gets himself a new one?
Well, yes.
Do me a favour.
Then whatever happened in here.
But it's impossible!
So long ago, we'd have been saying that about a lot of things.
The man on the floor opens his eyes. As he struggles to sit up, a searing pain nearly cripples him. Clutching his head, he stares wildly at Ben and Polly, his vision blurred.
Concentrate on one thing.
The man turns his attention to the TARDIS console, focusing on the controls. At last, his vision clears. The pain seemingly past, the man removes his hands from his face and looks around him, his features brightening in relief.
It's over. It's over.
The man scrambles to his feet, wobbling unsteadily. Ben and Polly watch, but make no attempt to help as he circles the TARDIS console, as if reacquainting himself with the controls. His clothes hang off his slight frame, much too big, and he struggles to unfasten the heavy cloak that threatens to trip him up. As he does so, an ornate ring drops to the floor.
Doctor?
As the TARDIS engines spring to life, the man raises his hands to his face once more, feeling his features as if they belong to a stranger. Polly moves to pick up the fallen ring, eyeing the newcomer with open curiosity and a little unease. The little man makes his way over to a storage chest, his stiff-legged gait reminding Polly of a small child learning to walk. He trips, but recovers quickly.
Muscles are still a bit tight.
What are we going to do?
It is the doctor, I know it is. I think.
It's not only his face that's changed, he doesn't even act like him.
The stranger is rummaging through the contents of the chest.
Come on, it's time we sorted this out. Now look here.
Oh, that.
He hands Ben a mirror.
Tilt it.
The man gazes intently at his reflection. The face in the mirror has a mop of black hair and dark green eyes. Momentarily, the image blurs and changes to that of an older, white-haired man, before changing back again. Apparently satisfied, the man turns his attention back to the storage chest.
Have you done with this?
Put it down, put it down.
Now what's the game? Ah!
The man turns, cheerfully brandishing an ornamental dagger.
The Crusades from Saladin. The doctor was a great collector, wasn't he?
But you're the doctor.
Oh, I don't look like him.
Who are we?
Don't you know?
The man rummages further and pulls out a piece of dull silver metal. His look of mischief fades as the object triggers a very clear memory.
Extermination.
The man stuffs the metal into his pocket. His concern turns to delight as he unearths a magnifying glass.
Ah,
He begins a careful study of his hands.
very good. Nails need growing.
Ben takes the doctor's ring from Polly
Now look, the doctor always wore this, so if you're him, it should fit now, shouldn't it?
and slips it on the man's finger. It's far too big.
There, that settles it.
I'd like to see a butterfly fit into a chrysalis case after it spread its wings.
Then you did change.
Life depends on change and renewal.
Oh, so that's it. You've been renewed, have you?
I've been renewed, have I? That's it. I've been renewed. It's part of the TARDIS. Without it, I couldn't survive. Come here.
Unexpectedly, the man rounds on Polly.
Come here.
Still rather nervous of this strange interloper, Polly steps closer.
The doctor kept a diary, didn't he?
Yes.
I thought so. I wonder where. I wonder where.
Ben and Polly watch as the man resumes his search of the chest.
It's a very different Dr. Ben.
Yeah, maybe. Just where do we stand, though?
The man has found something else in the chest, a recorder. He removes it with great care and stands flexing his fingers over the holes. His expression is one of pure childlike joy and convinces Polly that it's time for her to trust her instincts about the man's identity. The man dances a jig as he plays, stopping only when he spots the missing diary.
Doctor?
Tucking the recorder into his jacket, the doctor begins to read.
Doctor? What's going to happen to us?
I think we must have landed for some time. I think it's time we went for a stroll.
The doctor grabs a stovepipe hat from the chest. Engrossed in his reading, he moves to the console and opens the TARDIS doors.
But you don't know where we've landed!
No, and you haven't checked the oxygen or the temperature or anything.
The doctor doesn't even look up from his book.
Oxygen density 172, radiation nil, temperature 86. Strong suggestion of mercury deposits. Satisfied, Ben? Now, are you two coming or are you not?
He does know, as he said. Ben, didn't you hear him?
Yeah, I heard. But he might just have been copying you, though, mightn't he?
The TARDIS has landed in a misty swamp. The ground is rocky and pitted with small bubbling pools, which occasionally spray a fine silver mist into the air. The Doctor wanders away, still fascinated by the contents of the diary. Strolling directly towards a small pool of mercury, he is apparently oblivious to any danger, yet manages to successfully circumnavigate the obstacle without once looking up from his reading. Suddenly realizing what he's done, he stops and looks back, delighted at having outwitted the obstruction. But then he looks down and sloshes out of the watery puddle in which he is now standing.
Are you coming, you two?
The Doctor continues on his way. After a short distance, he stops once more. A boulder blocks his path. Pulling a tape measure from his pocket, he takes some extensive measurements of the rock and scribbles some calculations on an empty page of the diary. The Doctor glances round him. The boulder stands in a clearing, and he could easily walk round it, but a look of mischief crosses his face. Backing up a few steps, the Doctor looks down at his legs, flexing his knees.
Time I put you through some tests, I think.
Breaking into a run, the Doctor successfully leapfrogs the boulder.
Hello!
A newcomer has entered the clearing.
Hello! Is there anyone there? Hello! Hello! Why don't they come?
He catches sight of the Doctor.
So you've come at last. I'm from Earth. I'm the examiner.
The man crumples to the ground, shot. Horrified, the Doctor's about to dive for cover when the thought occurs to him that the man might still be alive. He pauses and glances back at the cover of the rocks before, keeping his head low and looking warily about him, he approaches the fallen figure. Turning the body over, he sees that it's too late. The man must indeed have died instantly. Searching for some kind of identification, the Doctor finds a large round badge. Automatically reaching into his top pocket, he pulls out a pair of wire-rimmed spectacles and puts them on. He squints at the badge and moves it backwards and forwards, trying to focus on it. Yet all he can see is a misty blur. He removes the spectacles and tries again. This time the text is clear. Realizing that he no longer needs glasses, the Doctor returns them to his pocket, then reads aloud from the identity badge.
Earth Examiner. Accord every access. Vulcan.
Behind the Doctor, a figure looms out of the mist. Wearing an all-concealing white suit and goggles, the figure trains a pistol on the Doctor's back.
Doctor, where are you?
The Doctor turns at the sound of Ben's voice. The figure dodges out of sight. Close to the TARDIS, Ben and Polly are exploring the swamp.
Whoa, and it hot.
Do you think the air's like this everywhere?
Nah, it might be just round here. I want too many lungfuls of it, I know that. Yeah, when I was a kid, we used to live opposite a brewery. You could take a walk and get tipsy all in one go.
It's beautiful.
Oh, don't touch it, Polly.
I wasn't going to.
That's quicksilver, it gets through the pores. Where is that Doctor or whatever he is got to?
As Ben moves away, a cloud of mercury vapour catches Polly full in the face.
What's the matter? Hey, Polly! Hey, Doctor, wherever you are, quick! There's something happened to Polly!
The Doctor heads back to the TARDIS at a run.
Quick, over this way!
Pistol raised as a bludgeon, the suited figure steps out behind the Doctor and knocks him down. The Doctor grabs at the figure briefly before sinking to the ground, unconscious. Working quickly, the stranger presses something into the Doctor's palm, then drags the examiner's body away. The Doctor is left sprawled on the ground, a button clutched in his outstretched hand. Meanwhile, Ben is trying to drag the unconscious Polly to safety. Another cloud of mercury vapour rises from the pool.
Doctor!
The last thing Ben sees before he passes out is a white-suited figure holding a pistol, approaching fast. Sometime later, a young man in a white survival suit, goggles pushed up over his head, is kneeling beside the seemingly unconscious Doctor. Another older man, similarly attired, approaches.
Ah, Quinn, there you are. What have you got there? My people have found 2 more of them by one of the pools.
This one's got a nasty bruise on the back of his head. Fallen over his feet and knocked himself out, I suppose.
I suppose so.
Why don't they use the kit we send them?
Yes. The other 2 have had a rather bad dose of fumes. And the girl has anyway.
Girl?
Yes.
but she'll recover.
Ben and Polly are helped into the clearing by 2 guards.
These comic opera guards of yours do have some uses after all. I picked them for their physical fitness. I thought it wasn't for their IQ. Give me a hand with the examiner, will you? I wonder why Earth has chosen to send an examiner to Vulcan. Just now, I mean. I don't know. It's a mystery, isn't it? He isn't due for another 2 years.
Ben is recovering.
How do you feel? We saw your rocket overshoot the landing area.
Hey?
Don't worry. Most of the ships from Earth do overshoot. I'm Quinn, Deputy Governor.
Reagan, head of security.
Let's get them all back, shall we? I'll take the girl. Here, you two. Help carry the examiner.
The guards lift the doctor between them.
I suppose you Earth people can't wait to examine Lesterson's space capsule.
Hey?
Ben is startled as the doctor winks slyly at him. Lesterson, chief scientist of the Vulcan colony, is sitting in his laboratory polishing an oddly shaped piece of metal. A huge space capsule dominates one side of the room. Lesterson's assistant, Janley, joins him.
Lesterson,
Look at this.
they've just brought in an examiner from Earth and a couple of assistants.
An examiner? What's he here for?
I thought you'd know.
It's the capsule. It must be. Well, they can't stop me working on it, I'll tell you that.
Could anyone?
The governor's always been difficult about it. Surely they wouldn't send somebody all the way from Earth just...
Look, what about the meeting?
Meeting?
Yes, I've arranged everything. Can we still use the old rocket room?
Yes, I suppose so. But I do wish you wouldn't get mixed up with these pressure groups, Janley.
Well, somebody has to do something. The colony's running down and you know it.
I'm too busy.
Well, if we ran things, you'd have better facilities, more money. I wish you'd take an interest.
Now, look, I don't mind letting you have the use of one of my rooms now and again, Janley, but don't try to involve me. This is what I find important. 200 years in a mercury swamp, and this piece of metal that dropped from it. Look, a couple of minutes polishing, and it's as good as new.
Wonderful.
Rain, damp, heat, mercury. Nothing touches this metal. No corrosion, Janley. Think of that.
Well, I hope the examiner lets you go on with your experiments. Frankly, I doubt it. I think the governor's brought the examiner here to stop you opening the capsule. You should join our group, Lesterson. You might need us one day.
Janley leaves Lesterson to consider her words. Fully recovered from their ordeal in the swamp, the Dr. Ben and Polly have been shown to guest quarters and left to make themselves comfortable. The doctor plays on his recorder, much to Ben's annoyance.
So the murdered man was the real examiner? Well, didn't you see who did it?
The doctor got this button, though.
No, well, I think he's pretty dull round here. I don't know why we don't just go back to the TARDIS.
Doctor, are you going to let them think you're the real examiner? Well, won't that be dangerous?
Look, why don't you stop blowing that thing and talk to us properly?
Ben!
No, don't you start. It's bad enough with him.
He hasn't done anything.
No, that's just the trouble.
Ben snatches the recorder away.
He knows what happened back at the TARDIS, yet will he tell us? Will he come out and say? Will he admit to being the doctor?
Ben blows angrily into the recorder.
Come in!
2 guards in peaked caps and dark uniforms enter the room, flanking Bragan and a large bearded man in his late 50s.
I am Hensel, the governor. I trust you're all feeling much better.
I felt worse, Governor. Governor?
If Earth had seen fit to warn us you were coming, we might, possibly, have been able to guide you down to the landing area.
If Earth didn't warn you we were coming, Governor, they must have had a very good reason. I wonder what it was.
Now look here, I run this colony. I'm entitled to know why you've come to Vulcan. What is your brief?
I am the examiner.
Why are you here?
To examine. And I intend to start my examination at once.
The doctor darts forward and begins to scrutinize Bragan's tunic.
Someone's leaked reports about these rebel groups. That's it, isn't it?
Your turn now, Governor.
The doctor turns his attention to Hensel's clothing.
There is Lesterson's capsule. Internal affairs are my business, Bragan. Please don't interfere.
Please go on.
The capsule. It was found in a mercury swamp. It must have been here for centuries.
Interesting. Continue.
For centuries before the Earth colony arrived, I felt it might be dangerous. It might contain bacteria.
I shall examine the capsule later.
You may leave us.
I shall look forward to your report. Regan, see that the examiner and his party get some proper clothes, will you?
Hansel, Bragan and the guards leave. The doctor looks down at himself, indignant.
We are wearing proper clothes.
Oh, how did he get that thing back again? That was a bit of a cheat, wasn't it? Seeing if the governor was the guy that you got the button off.
Doctor, when he was talking to you, you were staring at the other man.
Yes. Very rude of me, wasn't it? Terrible manners. To tell you the truth, I was studying his reactions, seeing if he agreed with the story.
Did he?
Just have a look at that capsule.
You know, you want to watch you don't take this examiner stuff a bit too far.
Answers must come from that mercury swamp.
Because at least one bloke ain't going to be fooled.
When Bragan found us, he definitely said space capsule.
Look, you're not going to fool the guy that did the real examiner in.
A little later, Bragan, accompanied by a guard, is posting a notice on a board in the corridor. Quinn approaches, clearly agitated.
Regan! What's all this nonsense about having to have a pass to see the examiner?
It's the governor's idea.
Surely it doesn't apply to me.
It's not my order, Quinn. I expect the governor wants to keep people away from him.
It sounded like one of your red tape ideas.
It has nothing to do with me.
Bragan returns his attention to the notice board.
Right.
Frustrated, Quinn strides away, practically colliding with Janley.
Oh, God.
Sorry, Janet.
My fault.
You all right?
Yes. Lesterson's just cleared me out of his lab. Is the examiner going to let him open the capsule?
I don't know. I'm on my way there now. If I can push past Bragan's army of layabouts.
Later that evening, the doctor takes Ben and Polly to Lesterson's laboratory for their first look at the mysterious space capsule. They are joined by Lesterson, Quinn and Hansel. Almost immediately, the doctor spots the piece of metal that Lesterson was polishing earlier. He picks it up and examines it worriedly.
Where did you get this?
It dropped from the capsule. Dropped? Yes, when it was being hauled into the laboratory.
But you can see.
This metal could revolutionize space travel. That's why I'm insisting that we open it. Well, who knows what other marvels there may be inside.
But Lesterson, I didn't think you could open it.
Well, I have a theory. I'm convinced that the opening mechanism on the other side is either here...
While Lesterson is occupied, the doctor pulls out the piece of metal he found in the TARDIS and compares it with Lesterson's piece. They are identical.
Now, my theory is that I can insert a laser ray in this ridge here. The ray spreads, fuses the opening device, and gets us in.
Examiner, I shall have to make it your responsibility.
A laser. Why not? It shouldn't be too difficult.
The laser fires at the first spot Lesterson indicated. Nothing happens.
Well, we'll try the other side.
Lesterson refocuses the laser. The hatchway slides open. The doctor and Lesterson step into the capsule and find themselves in a small, brightly lit chamber. The doctor moves to the far wall and begins studying it intently. Hansel, Quinn, Ben and Polly all crowd into the tiny space behind them.
It's a bit disappointing.
Not really. This is just an entryway, isn't it?
Yes. I suppose so.
Well, this doesn't get us very far, does it?
Getting into the rest of the capsule will take time, Governor.
Well, can't you use that torch thing again? That must be an open door.
I shall have to measure it up and find out where the lock mechanism is.
I think we'll leave it for tonight.
Leave it for tonight?
What are we coming here for?
That is my decision, Governor.
For good heavens above, man.
100 years, you say, this has been buried?
Or at least, there must be something in the inner compartments. We shall be able to find out where it came from originally.
It didn't come from this planet, Vulcan.
No. The metal is quite alien.
Alien. Yes, very alien. Good night.
The doctor leaves the laboratory.
What's he up to now?
Then we're not going to let him out of our sight.
Ben and Polly follow the doctor from the lab. Once they're out of earshot, Hansel rounds on Lesterson.
Well, Lesterson, you got your way. Was it worth sending for this examiner, this idiotic examiner?
I didn't send for him. I thought you did.
Why don't you let me talk to the examiner, Hansel? I can find out what he's here for.
No. You keep away from him. We'll leave him to work with Lesterson here. We've all got enough to do without having to worry about some amateur critic from Earth interfering.
For 5 minutes...
You heard what I said, Quinn. You won't mind keeping the examiner busy, Lesterson? I don't mind what you do with him, so long as you keep his nose out of our business.
Yes, all right.
All right, well, we shall talk about it tomorrow.
Left alone, Lesterson returns to his workbench, where he quickly realizes that his metal sample has disappeared. His brow creases in concern. Later that night, Polly wakes Ben.
Ben!
What?
She's in the corridor.
Who is?
The doctor, you clod. Come on, quick. He's going towards Lesterson's lab.
Of course, to the space capsule.
Come on.
The doctor steps into the deserted laboratory, which is eerily illuminated by the light emanating from the glowing interior of the capsule. Reaching the capsule entrance, he dips into his pockets and takes out the 2 pieces of metal, the one stolen from Lesterson's bench, the other from the TARDIS. Ben and Polly appear in the doorway of the lab just in time to see the doctor disappear into the capsule. Inside, the doctor crosses to the far wall. He inserts one of the pieces of metal into a narrow opening. An inner door slides open, revealing a second compartment. The doctor edges forward, peering into the gloom. 2 shapes are silhouetted against the dull metal glow of the compartment. Shapes that, despite the dust and the cobwebs, are all too familiar. Daleks. Without turning round, the doctor addresses his 2 companions.
Molly, Ben, come in and meet the Daleks.
What?
The Daleks.
Polly moves closer and peers into the alcove. As she approaches, the sucker arm of one of the Daleks drops unexpectedly.
You could have opened this before.
These 2 pieces of metal are identical. The doctor got one of them from the Daleks himself.
Why'd you keep saying the doctor if you mean you?
I knew I should find them here. I knew it.
They look harmless, not very lively.
What do you think? 200 years of a swamp and you wouldn't look very lively either. Nothing could live through that, could it?
Live?
Nothing human, no.
Take a look.
What's the matter?
The doctor kneels to examine the marks on the dusty floor.
But there were 3 Daleks in here. What's happened to the other one?
Ben catches sight of something moving in the corner behind the doctor.
Doctor!
The doctor spins around. A clawed mutant scuttles from the shadows across the floor.